In media today, you get those thought-provoking, sensationalized titles, and they're there to stir up all those rumblings and feelings and emotions. And when you're supercharged, that is not a good thing. So we're here to help you navigate tips and tricks to navigate these things so that you have a better, sensible mind that can navigate the world judgment-free and figuring out your own opinions instead of just jumping onto others.
Yeah, so today we're gonna look at this video that one of our audience members sent to us.
Yes.
It's basically a single woman, and she's sharing her kind of mentality of being detached, and that's kind of like, and she has this kind of in a way, kind of a selfish kind of perspective, and it seems like it's getting a lot of virality, a lot of views, and the question from this audience member is this someone to kind of like idolize and pay attention to? And given the number of views that this channel has, as you can see, this channel has like millions of views in a pretty short amount of time, just a few months. Pretty much every video is getting millions of views, and so there's a lot of good in what she's saying. There's a lot of introspection, a lot of accountability that she practices. But one thing that she does a little bit too much is think too much about herself, I feel.
I think what Alan's saying is that if you take everything in and not really challenging her way of thought, then you're blindly walking into something that can have consequences later on.
Yeah, take the positives of her message. A lot of the self-introspection, it's great stuff. But some of the things, like, that doesn't point out some of the consequences of some of her decisions to become so focused on yourself. And so I just wanted, we feel like it's an obligation. We feel an obligation to tell the audience that, hey, when you consume content online, be careful about seeing something and automatically idolizing someone, because you look at the comments, it's like everybody just loves her, but they don't see, and nobody points out the consequences of this kind of thinking. So we're not here to judge whether it's right or wrong, but rather to point out, hey, this is the consequence not only to yourself but also to society of this way of thinking.
It's not just I would say like really obligation. It's more of just trying to make people more aware of their surroundings, their mentality, and vitality around you.
Yeah, our goal here is to bring awareness to how to consume content and understand the consequences. So
you can judge, but ultimately, like, we find it trying to find the balance of everything, because where there's negative, there's also positive. Just having the balance of.
Okay, so let's roll this clip. We'll watch it together and we'll give our commentary.
Another thing is I am very detached. Why am I detached? First of all, I don't know. I always had this analytical thinking about life. I always saw life as in I can accomplish anything I want, but there's a certain reality aspect to it. So, for example, in my head, I never think that, for example, if I have a relationship or anything, that person has to stay with me forever. Because I do not define myself from a relationship or a friendship or a job. No, nothing defines me. I define me. I do not get attached to those things. And this is really good, because if those things leave, I am not completely shattered. Yes, it hurts sometimes, and yes, I have to get over it. I've been through heartbreak as well, but I get over it fairly quickly, because I never in the first place went into something thinking that this will last forever,
Okay, yeah, so she makes some really good points there. You don't want to be so attached to the point that you set yourself up for failure, and when the rug gets pulled from under you, that you're really just lost. And so those are some really good points there.
Well, also, I could see it. Yes, I understand from your point of view, but also the reason why she points it out is because people, when they do that, they do it with a full heart. So they're very passionate about it. And sometimes if you're into extreme, you get lost in it. Now, that could be a good thing and a bad thing, but being detached also sets you up a buffer. But the thing is, we're human, we want to allow ourselves to fill that, our heart or the void, whatever it is, with love. And so there's a risk between, if you detach yourself, are you really putting your 100% out there? And whatever you give out comes back. So it's like a reflective mirror per se.
Yeah, and try not to think of things in extremes, like extremely like attached or extremely detached. It seems like she's had some life experience and she's been super attached, and now she's going the other extreme and being super detached. And I think really what you want to do is find the balance somewhere in between. And
well, it's the byproduct of trauma or of not so good or negative results. Right. And when you have that, then you try to cope with it by protecting yourself. But the thing is, keep in mind, everybody that walks in and out of your life are different people. So to apply that to everybody around you, you're going to miss out on very special things. And they say, right, where if you don't risk putting yourself out there, you're not going to get it back.
And one way to buffer it, and it's good that you buffer it, but like do it in stages. So in the beginning, maybe you're a little bit like not completely open, and maybe you start leveling in. But I would say if you come in completely detached, in a way you're setting yourself up for a suboptimal or kind of your
missing out there. Right? Missing out on the quality of a relationship, the potential that it could be something great instead of just something mediocre.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be in my life for a period of time to teach me something or to give me joy or to elevate me in some way. But when their purpose was done, they were meant to leave. And I'm okay with that. So I see that as a beautiful thing, to be honest. I served my purpose in their life. They served their purpose in my life. And now our contract was supposed to end. And that's okay. That's really okay. Because I am so detached, I am also not desperate.
All right. So you hear that point? Like when someone's purpose is done with you, she just moves on. She's okay with it. And, that's it. So what's your opinion there?
I think it's to protect yourself or herself from being rejected first. It's also, no one likes rejection, but rejection can be like everyone thinks is a bad thing, but it can also be a learning purpose. And to decouple or detach yourself, it takes time. And just to say that your soul contract has ended, some people walk in and out of your life. They don't just do it once and then are gone. There are people like that as well too. But you can't guarantee who's coming in and who's coming out.
Yeah, so I think part of that way of thinking, like being detached and this person serves their purpose and then you just move on, it starts thinking of the relationship like a transaction. And it's no longer about the shared team effort or anything like that. It's, hey, did you serve my purpose? Did you serve my need? If I need you, I'll have you around. If I don't, then we'll move on.
It's like, I guess, a business kind of feeling. So it's a very cold feeling instead of relationships are opposite of that. And I mean, business can be warm as well in certain aspects, but relationships, building friendships and family members, those are supposed to be meant as warm things for it.
Once there is something that is not benefiting me in the relationship, or I am feeling like I'm being stagnant or I'm not being elevated in any way, I leave the relationship. I'm very easy with this because
once it's stagnant and she's not elevated, she leaves.
Right. So once the relationship no longer serves her needs, she leaves. Yeah. So it sounds good, and I can see that, but
you're vouching for yourself.
Yeah, it's a very selfish way of seeing it rather than seeing it as a group. At no point does she talk about like her value to the other side. It's simply the other side serves her. That's it. Now that may not be the case, but that's certainly what she's communicating here.
That you feel. It sounds like through these clips, everything is focused on me, myself, individualism, capitalistic gains.
It's a very individual, independent way of thinking. and right now it's a lot of mainstream is kind of like applauding this kind of effort, but
Which is, I guess, for temporary usage is fine, but for long term, that's why we're talking about it, going back before, referring that we have to keep in mind the holistic community and being aware of the environment around us.
it's great for her individually, but the consequence and impact on society is that fewer and fewer people will be able to be paired up because there's more and more kind of these independent power girls, power women that kind of go their own way, which is fine if that's what they want, but be aware that the consequence is that later in life you may change your mind, you may want a partner later in life, and by then the guy that you want won't want you back because they've kind of like
Timelines are different.
yeah, they've written off they're going their own way. So now it's like the women are going their own way.
So
the guys are going their own way. So it's
so
nobody matches
you're
up.
saying like it basically the term decoupling. Basically,
Yes.
the potential of coupling is now no longer the fact; it's decoupling. And when you have that decoupling effect, it also does not create the potential of creating generations. Meaning, I'm just gonna live a solo life, which is fine, but that also has consequences and effects because once you have depopulation, when people who are alone and not alone but just single, who's going to take care of you at an old age if something happens? And so you'll have more of elderly population and then very sparse young population. And you need young population because they're the ones that spur the GDP. They're the ones that buy a lot of.
Yeah, and it's very easy for a lot of to be like, I don't really care about society or what happens in 100 years there. I'll be dead anyway. But like, but it does have a little bit of destabilizing aspects to society, right? There's going to be a lot more single mothers. There's going to be a lot less couples paired. There's going to be a lot more violence.
Crumbling society and foundation.
Yeah, degradation of society. This is the first time in history where people generally think just for themselves. In every other previous generation, you have people thinking about their next generation and like setting up society for like a stable society. But we become so comfortable in civilization that like that has become the lower priority.
There's no sacrifices.
Right.
Like,
so there's no such thing as a sacrifice.
when you have pain, there's gain in that movement. But when you have gluttony and just like the satiable things, then you're just stagnant, right?
Right.
Stagnation.
So let's move on to this next clip. And she talks about how she only wants to do what she wants to do, and she's willing to flake on a date because, hey, that's if she decides to do a me day, then she does a me day.
Another thing is I do things that I want to do. So for example, say I have a date that I'm going to. If I do not want to go on a date and I just want to spend time with myself, do some self-care and things like that, I'll say, hey, listen, I cannot make it today. And yeah, they get upset and stuff, but then I don't care because I chose myself and I chose what I wanted to do first. When you put yourself first in every aspect of life, people will put you first. When people just see you put yourself first, they think like, oh wow, what does she think she has? Like, what is it about her? Because she thinks that she's so important, And when I say like, put yourself first.
All right, so she's very prideful about blowing someone off on a date. Complete disregard of the other person's time, and there's no sense of accountability to yourself or even respect for other people. So, like, a lot of people are like, looking to her and idolizing her, especially in the comments. And I would caution that because the consequence of that is you create like a bitter society. And
Well, you create enemies, right?
Yeah.
Enemies, resentment, all this negative. There's a way to be tactful about it and say, hey, I'm busy, not now, I need my own time. If that person really understands and will give you that space. But when you cut people off abruptly or say, no, I'm just going to do me time, I don't feel like it. Like,
well, if that's the case, then don't accept the date in the first place.
exactly. Yes.
Right?
Or setting up, it's like setting up,
Yeah.
what's it called?
You're setting expectations for the other person just to
well,
let them down.
Not even that, you're leading other people
Yes,
on
yeah.
is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're burning not only your time, but other people's time. And that also creates communication confusion as well, too.
Yeah.
Down
So yeah, in a way, she's kind of like halfway between selfish and narcissism, and we can look a little bit more into like what narcissism entails. But yeah, that level of selfishness is a little bit on the high side. She is very strong in introspection, so she sees and she recognizes areas for improvement.
Yeah.
But when you go so
But
introspecting
I guess she dialed up so far.
to the point that you're selfish and you only think about yourself, with complete disregard here, to the point that you're willing to blow off somebody, that's, I don't think it's healthy, and you shouldn't be,
So that's
society
what
should
we're-
not be idolizing.
That's what we're trying to point out here
Yeah.
is that it's great. We're commending her for the self, reflections and everything, but also taking point that some of the techniques, maybe she's discovering it firsthand for herself, and she's like, oh, it works great for me. It may not work great for other people, and it could be travesty. You never know, or it could be good too. But we're just saying, take it with a grain of salt, meaning take things here and there that make it work for you, but not everything.